Hey everyone, this is Andre Liebenberg, and today I'm going to be talking about desire disorders. So, what is desire? It's probably the first question we should start out if we're going to talk about desire disorders. I think most of us kind of understand experientially what it means, but it can be a little tricky, even among professionals, to really define it and distinguish it from arousal. You know, if I'm feeling aroused, does that mean I desire sexual intimacy? So how does it all kind of work? Well, let's take a look at the human sexual response cycle here that's been made famous by Masters and Johnson. So you can see here, it starts out with arousal, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. Those are kind of the four big phases. You can see here on the y-axis, that's the sexual excitement and tension. However, thanks to Kaplan, desire was actually added then at the start of this sexual response cycle. However, since the days of Kaplan, people have kind of been looking at this and think that looks a little bit linear, doesn't it? Is it always? Is the progression from desire to arousal to orgasm always linear like this? Well, mounting evidence suggests that responsive sexual desire may be common and may even be the predominant type of desire among women. So, responsive desire, what does that mean? Well, in order to understand what responsive desire is, it helps to understand Basson's circular model. And so you can see here we have basically black and white circles. And if you look at the center circle here, that's spontaneous sexual desire. So that's kind of what Kaplan's assertion was by putting desire at the front of the cube. And when you feel spontaneous sexual desire, you can use that desire, seek out sexual stimuli, which would lead to sexual arousal, or just feeling that desire itself can lead to arousal, which then leads to arousal and sexual desire combined. And when that's the case, it's known as a responsive desire. And understanding that can help couples a lot. Just normalizing that, you know. Women may have concerns about the lack of spontaneous desire. And this doesn't constitute a desire disorder. So I think a lot of women would be relieved to hear about responsive desire. And so education, normalization is probably the first step to begin if you kind of hear some shame in this area. And even for men too, understanding, a lot of men might feel unmet in that area or undesirable. Maybe they wonder, what is it about me that makes my wife not initiate sex? Well, I think normalizing can help with those men as well. So if that's not a disorder, what is? What is a desire disorder? Well, let's start with the DSM-4. They had a very popular diagnosis called hypoactive sexual desire disorder, HSSD. However, the DSM-5 has replaced that with sexual interest / arousal disorder, SIAD. So what's the difference? Well, we can review side by side the diagnostic criteria between the two. And this might look overwhelming. And I apologize for the ugly slide here, but it's not as overwhelming when you get into it. So let's start by looking at the criteria. First, for the DSM-4, for hypoactive sexual desire disorder. So first criteria is persistently or recurrently deficient or absent sexual fantasies and desire for sexual activity. So it's already kind of defining it as a spontaneous desire issue. And it goes on to say the judgment of deficiency or absence is made by the clinician, taking into account factors that affect sexual functioning, such as age and the context of a person's life. So kind of doing a differential. Criterion B, the disturbance causes marked distress or interpersonal difficulty. The sexual dysfunction is not better accounted for by another axis 1 disorder. So that's hypoactive sexual desire disorder. DSM-4 also has a diagnosis called female sexual arousal disorder. Criteria for that: persistent or recurrent inability to attain or to maintain until completion of the sexual activity an adequate lubrication swelling response of sexual excitement. The disturbance causes marked distress, and it's not better accounted for by another axis 1 diagnosis. So you kind of have two things here, the desire disorder and the arousal disorder. DSM-5 sought to combine those into one disorder with the following criteria. Criteria A: lack of or significantly reduced sexual interest or arousal as manifested by at least 3 of the following. 1, an absent or reduced interest in sexual activity. 2, absent or reduced sexual or erotic thoughts or fantasies. Again, these first 2 are talking about spontaneous desire. Number 3, no or reduced initiation of sexual activity, and typically unreceptive to a partner's attempts to initiate. So now we might be experiencing problems with responsive desires too. Absent or reduced sexual interest arousal in response to any internal or external cues. Absent or reduced genital and or non-genital sensations during sexual activity in almost all sexual encounters. And it has to last for 6 months, causes distress, and isn't better explained.